Do you find it hard to know what types of content to produce, marketing campaigns to run, or to understand how your audience thinks? You might be in need of some well-defined buyer personas. Hi, and welcome to Weekly Brand Tips, brought to you by Elements Brand Management. Weekly videos designed to help you to unlock your brand's potential so you can stand out from the competition and create impact. If you watch this video until the end, I'll give you some tips on how to define your brand's buyer personas and a link to download a resource that will help you flesh yours out. We touched on the importance of defining a target audience in a previous video that you can see here. So once you define that audience and the different segments within it, you're going to want to build out a buyer persona for each segment. So what is a buyer persona? A buyer persona freshens up a stale set of demographics and psychographics and helps to build something that is a bit more real, a bit more rounded, and gives your target audience segments a personality. So when you are defining content or marketing campaigns, it feels like you're interacting with a real individual, almost on a one-to-one level. And it makes it really easy when you're writing content to write it towards that particular persona. So in the previous video, when we discussed defining your target audience segments, we identified 6 key segments that we would recommend building out buyer personas for. But if you're short on time and you just want to start somewhere, we would recommend doing your B segment, which is your high-end customer and clients, your C segment, which is your sweet spot, your D segment, which is your negative audience, and your E segment, which is your low-end or entry-level customers and clients. So what is the negative audience? Well, this is, a lot of the times, it is the mirror of your sweet spot, your main target audience, just with 1 or 2 differences, and sometimes it can be around the fact that they're not ready for your product or service, or it might also be they share different values from your main target audience. So for instance, if you were a design agency or a innovative product firm, you might put a lot of resource and effort into design. The negative audience might be exactly the same as your target audience in terms of demographics and psychographics, apart from one thing: they don't value design. And that would be the deal breaker with your brand, product, or service. So how do you start building out your buyer personas? Well, initially you start with research. So you want to interview customers and clients, if you can, happy and unhappy, and you want to see the differences, the main differences between the two. Why were some people happy? What were the things that you delivered on? And why were they unhappy? And what were the things you didn't deliver on? And see if you can identify the differences between the two. Doing your own research, so that could be through online surveys with tools like SurveyMonkey, or going into Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, FAQ sections on your website and seeing some of the responses, potentially comments on social media posts, and gathering all this data together. Another great tool or resource for doing research like this is Quora, and looking at some of the questions that your target audience has been asking around your product and service. You can look into Answer the Public, which, although doesn't have it's mainly question based and it's great for content marketing, but it does give you some ideas in terms of questions that your audience will be asking around your product or service. So once you've done this research and you've kind of put it all together and you have a good idea, you can start to build out your buyer personas for each segment. And the way to do this is you want to, for each segment, you want to get a photograph that represents that particular segment. You want to make up a name. You can go online, you can find some really good name generators for buyer personas. There are actually some persona generators which will give you a photo, they'll give you a name, they'll give you a slight backstory, sort of age and stuff like that. So it saves you a bit of time building it out yourself, but you want to do this. And then you want to do the most important bit, which is give them a bio, give them a slight backstory that's not just a list of demographics and psychographics, but a kind of a paragraph long introduction to who they are. If you're explaining to somebody else or you were writing them as a character in a story, how would you describe this individual? You then want to write a paragraph about their current situation. So where do they find themselves just at the point when they're about to interact with your brand, product or service? What problems are they facing? How does their life look like? What day-to-day challenges do they have? Where are they at this particular time just before interacting with you? You then want to pair them with a particular product range. It might be the case that they might be good for a lot of different product ranges or services that you do. But if you can focus on one, which is going to be their sort of core go-to product range or service for their particular segment, outline their shopping habits, their buying habits, and any insights you got from the customer interviews or the research you did that identified distinct buying habits for this particular segment. This is where you bring it in. Lastly, you want to write a paragraph about how your product helps them to overcome the problems, the challenges they had initially, and where has it taken them? What does their life look like now? How have they reached the aspirational identity? What have you done to help them get there with your product or service? And how have you taken them there? Once you defined these brand buyer personas, you want to use them when you're writing content. You want to use them when you're creating marketing funnels. You want to use them when you're creating campaigns or even new products. Some people like to print them out and put them up so they can see who they're talking to when they're writing something or they're thinking about something in meetings. And once you've done this, you're going to have a sort of a visual. So you have like an image of someone's face that's got a name to it. You'll have a backstory, their current situation, the problems they're facing, how your product fits into their life, and where you are taking them. So you have a real rounded set of personas that you can use in every day when you're creating marketing collateral. So to sum up, the biggest mistake most brands make is not thinking about their audience when they're creating their brand. And the second biggest mistake most brands make is not thinking deeply enough about that audience. Buyer personas will allow you to craft meaningful, tangible, and real marketing campaigns aimed at somebody that has been well defined, and that will make the internal process a lot smoother because it feels like you're talking to a real person, but also it will feel like that for your audience as well. If you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, subscribe in the link below. Videos come out weekly. They're designed to help you to unlock your brand's potential so you can stand out from the competition and create impact. Have a great week, catch up soon, and keep those brands unified.